I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
President Joe Biden saying, I know how to tell the truth, obviously meant to contrast himself to the ex-president, the ex-president's near nonstop flurry of lies. It took reporter Daniel Dale nearly 3 minutes to fact-check Donald Trump's debate performance last night. Here's just some of that.
What stood out was the staggering number of false claims from former President Trump. On first count, Aaron, I counted at least 30 false claims. He said some Democratic states allow people to execute babies after birth, an egregious lie that is illegal in every state. He said everybody, even Democrats, wanted Roe v. Wade overturned. Roe was supported by 2/3 of Americans, even more Democrats. He said every legal scholar wanted Roe overturned, abortion returned to the states. Legal scholars have told me directly this is not true. He said the U.S. currently has the biggest budget deficit ever. No, that happened under Trump in 2020. He said the U.S. currently has a record trade deficit with China. That also happened under Trump in 2018. He said Biden personally gets a lot of money from China. Zero evidence of this. He said there were no terror attacks during his presidency. In fact, there were multiple attacks. He said Iran didn't fund Hamas, Hezbollah, other terror groups under his presidency. Iran, in fact, did. He said Biden wants to quadruple people's taxes. That is pure fiction. He said the U.S. has provided way more aid to Ukraine than Europe had. It's actually the opposite. He said the U.S. has provided about $200 billion in Ukraine aid. It's closer to $110 billion. He said 18 or 19 million people have crossed the border under Biden. That is millions too high. He said many of these migrants are from prisons or mental institutions. His own campaign cannot corroborate this. He said Biden has only created jobs for illegal immigrants. Total nonsense. He said Nancy Pelosi turned down his offer of 10,000 National Guard troops on January 6th. There's no evidence she even got such an offer. He said Biden made up the idea he called dead service members suckers and losers. No, the Atlantic magazine reported that, and then former Trump Chief of Staff John Kelly corroborated it.
So that portrait of a serial liar, a candidate uniquely unfit for office, was unfortunately and tragically obscured in the moment of last night's debate. It's still unclear what, if anything, changes after last night. One constant remains. The country faces a very stark choice between President Joe Biden and an authoritarian movement led by a candidate whose instincts are fundamentally those of an autocrat. David Frum puts it like this in The Atlantic, quote, against the threat of Trump, Americans must save themselves. The job of doing so cannot be delegated to some charismatic savior. And anyway, that charismatic savior has yet to present himself or herself. Television always wants to reduce active human beings to passive viewers. The presidential debate format has especially served this purpose. Do I prefer the candidate in the red tie or the blue one? This most recent debate has taught the danger of spectatorship. The job of saving democracy from Trump will be done not by an old man on a gaudy stage, but by those who care that their democracy be saved. Biden's evident frailties have aggravated that job and made it more difficult, but they have also clarified whose job it is. Not his, yours. That's where we start today with some of our most favorite experts and friends. Former RNC chairman, co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, Michael Steele is here. Plus, host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, the president of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton's here. Also joining us, Democratic strategist, president of Brilliant Corners Research, MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher's here, and the executive director of Republican Voters Against Trump, the publisher of The Bulwark, Sarah Longwell's here. Sarah Longwell, you've been in front of the most important pundits and consumers of last night's debates, and that's voters. Tell us what you're hearing from them.
Yeah, so we talked to some of these so-called double haters this morning, and these are actually Trump voters, people who voted for him twice, but after January 6th, were basically out on him, and we're looking for reasons not to vote for him. And look, they used words like embarrassment and train wreck, and everybody thought that the debate was really terrible. But what was interesting to me was it didn't really push anybody back into Trump's column, right? What it did was they all still believe Trump is a liar. They still believe he's a con man. They still believe he's a narcissist. These were all the things. And it was interesting to me, actually, to listen to them, because I think as I watched the debate, I was a little concerned that Trump's demeanor, which is not the same as sort of the big lunatic energy you see from him often, that would sort of lead voters to maybe say like, oh, Trump seems more reasonable. But these voters, they were clocking all the lies. They understood that Donald Trump was not telling the truth and that much of the substance of his comments was crazy. But look, Biden's performance, they were also just really thought was terrible. They were concerned about his cognitive abilities. And for the couple of voters in the group who had really been sort of leaning towards Biden because they were so repulsed by Trump, they were kind of back on the fence. And I actually, what you heard from a lot of them that I think is, I don't know, maybe the most depressing is how many of them were thinking just about sitting it out or writing somebody in. They were much more third-party curious in this moment. I don't know that this moment lasts forever, but in this moment, they were back to like thinking about RFK. And so, yeah, I think for people who maybe didn't have high expectations of Joe Biden to begin with, which I think when you talk to the double haters, they are already concerned about Joe Biden's mental acuity. And so last night didn't necessarily shock them, but it didn't do anything to bring them into Biden's column, which is what he needed to do last night, right? He had to help these double haters for whom their hatred is really for Donald Trump, but they think Joe Biden's too old. He was needed to convince them that, in fact, he was up for the job. And I just don't think that's what got done last night.
You know, Michael Steele, I love what Joe Biden said today. I mean, he's speaking directly to what Sarah's sort of studied, data-driven analysis said he needed to do. He said, I may not walk as well as I used to. I may not debate as well as I used to, but I'll always tell you the truth. And he could go on and on in that construction. I'll never steal classified documents. I won't in a deposition, you know, in the year 2024 say that you can still grab women between the legs because that's what famous people have done for a million years. I mean, there may have just been too much, right? Sometimes there's such a volume of atrocities in terms of what Trump has said and done that it's hard for anyone that's ever gone up against him in the Republican primary going back to 2015 to focus. But I wonder what you make of where voters seem to be processing last night's debate.
Well, you know, I think they're kind of like, I don't know. And I think Sarah's focus groups and her analysis of this is really put her fingers on that piece of it. But that piece is not necessarily bad for Joe Biden in terms of, and it's really important to understand what Sarah said. Those voters did not move back to Trump. Right. So those voters are still gettable. Those voters are still persuadable. Those voters, quite honestly, are still looking for something to affirm the decision to talk, to move, and to act in a way that says, yeah, I'll go with Joe Biden. And last night, everybody in this moment knows was a cluster. It did not help. It screwed all kinds of stuff up. But that's okay. That's okay. You know why it's okay? Because y'all knew the man was 81 years old. You knew that. How do you know that? Because you renominated him. And you renominated a 78-year-old. So this is where we are. So let's take that crap off this table. Now the Democrats need to figure out, okay, what did we do last night? And you put your finger last night on Nicolle and something that's very important here. Own this thing. Don't run away from it. And it was very refreshing to see Joe Biden today come out and own it. I'm 81. I don't walk as well as I used to. I have a stutter and I mess up sentences. But I'm not that guy, right? As an 81-year-old, I don't want to be a dictator. As an 81-year-old, I don't want to take the federal government and deconstruct it so that the things that you rely on and need are no longer done. And I think the more they begin to reframe this conversation, taking into account the thing that they've been running away from, that is his age, and own that, the more you expose Donald Trump for the charlatan, the liar, the putrid piece of humanity that he is. And that's what they need to do for the rest of this campaign. And stop worrying and nervous Nellying this conversation. Democrats right now are their own worst enemy. Republicans are just sitting back going, okay, we don't say anything about the debate. Let them do the talking, right? And they're talking their guy out of the race. As Joe Biden said, I'm picking myself up and I'm back in this thing. Last night was not good. And y'all saw it, I saw it. But here's what I want to do now. Let's stay in this fight for you. And I think that narrative can be important if they, find what they need to find to do it.
I love, Cornell, what Michael Steele's saying. I am sitting in this real epiphany about the differences in the DNA between the two parties. And I try to never forget to express my gratitude for being welcomed into the Democracy Coalition, right? Like Michael Steele and I sit in this coalition I'm more than a visitor. I've abandoned the Republican Party. But I mean, I think there's this thing where because the Democrats are so earnestly committed to governing, they are so self-conscious of any flaws, right? And I think that Republicans, because this iteration of Republicans is committed to MAGA, which is about burning everything down, it took the Access Hollywood tape for them to walk away temporarily and then run, not walk, back to their man. And I wonder what your thoughts are today and what that sort of the difference in the DNA of the two parties says about the path forward.
Well, this is fantastic because this is actually where I was going. The only reason I wanted to be on the show today is actually go here. And, Nicolle, it's a thing where, as a Southerner, we don't take other people beating up on the South, but we'll beat up on the South. As a Southerner, right, it's ours to beat up on. As the person here, in all respect to Rev, the person here most deeply ingrained in Democratic politics and campaign politics, I'm going to say this. And that is, there's a perception out there that, and this builds on what Chairman Steele was saying, there's a perception out there among voters that Democrats aren't strong fighters and they don't fight for what they believe in. And if you watch how Democrats ran away from the man who beat Trump and has delivered an extraordinary amount of their issue agenda in a historic way over the last couple of years. If you saw the way they ran away from this man, because as a stutterer, he has a hard time, and as an old man, he has a hard time sometimes putting out his thoughts clearly in his speech. If you saw the way they ran away from this man last night as a voter, it reinforces the ideal that these are people who actually don't stand by and fight for what they believe in and fight for people they believe in. And this is nothing new, right? I watched a complete meltdown on the left after the first Obama-Romney debate.
Yes.
A complete meltdown on the left, right? And if you go back even further, right, there was after the debate and Bill Clinton was behind Ross Perot double digits, there was again a complete meltdown. And it is a difference. Like, Republicans will rally around and support their candidates no matter what. Right? You talk about a man who got 30-some felonies, someone who's on tape talking about grabbing women by their private parts, someone who's been adjudicated and found liable of sexual assault. And what the Republican Party has done, they rally around, support, and make it all right. Most of the damage being done to Joe Biden and his campaign this today after the debate is not being done by Republicans. It's being done by progressives. It's being done by Democrats who are not rallying around the man who's delivered for them, but running away from the man who's delivered to him. And I've got to deal with reporters calling me saying Democrats are talking about a broker convention, and I'm saying that's absolutely ridiculous. It's not something that could even happen, but that's a problem of Democrats. And going forward, what's going to happen in this campaign going forward? It depends on what Democrats do. It doesn't depend on what the Republicans do. It depends on whether or not these Democrats who are now panicking are going to rally around and support the man who brought them to the dance and delivered their issue agenda, or they're going to continue to sort of whine and complain and try to cut and run from Joe Biden. It's a moment not for Joe Biden, but a moment for Democrats.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you, Cornell. I want to follow up. I mean, I had this theory after Hillary Clinton's defeat that Bernie Sanders did as much damage to her as Donald Trump did. Because if you were a voter, you heard the same lines of attack against Hillary Clinton from the far left and whatever Trump is, the Trump right. And I wonder if this debate last night is sort of the beginning of Democrats looking at this choice. I mean, you're not running against someone who's going to put in place policies you abhor. You're running against someone and a party that's so broken. They have rallied behind a felon, a convicted felon, who's been found liable. I mean, he's such a different figure than he was 4 years ago. He's a different figure than he was 4 months ago. We live in post-January 6th America. We live in post-liable for sexual assault Donald Trump. We live in post-convicted felon. He's awaiting sentencing for 34 felonies, and he faces dozens more. What is and who leads the conversation among Democrats to say, let's go, guys, believe? I mean, who plays Ted Lasso in the next 5 months?
Well, I think all of us. And I think one is the vice president did a fantastic job last night supporting and standing in the president's corner. But I also think you got someone on the show right now who's going to talk in a moment who I see is important in helping lead that conversation, and Reverend Sharpton. I think it's leaders in the progressive and Democratic spaces who respect it like that to say, hey, get it together and let's rally around our candidate. And the other thing, quick thing, Nicolle, I'll do before I let this go, is that I also think, Nicolle, and you and I are political hacks, we talk about this campaign hacks, right? Nicolle, I don't know why I would ever have another presidential debate. Why, right? To the point, if there's no referees and your opponent can simply lie and make up whatever he or she wants to make up and lie, it's usually a he, and dump it on television, right? Your opponent can say, you're for killing babies, and not a blink from the referees. Why in the hell would I ever do another debate?
Right. We don't play sports like that. I mean, there's no league that lets you, take your fist and punch someone in the face in any sport. There's no sporting event that gets played the way the debate was conducted last night with a decision made. There was plenty of time for Joe Biden to do all the fact checking, but it's clear that the moderators didn't take that on as their responsibility. We are going to turn the floor over to the Rev. I have to sneak in a quick break first. On the other side, the floor will be his. Also to come, Democratic lawmakers are doing a lot of what we're talking about. They are rallying around the president this afternoon after that strong performance in North Carolina. We'll talk with one of them who's been sounding the alarm about Donald Trump's danger for years. We're going to check in on the feelings on Capitol Hill today, and later in the broadcast, highlighting just how important the 2024 election really is. The Supreme Court today issuing 2 huge decisions. One, on how hundreds of January 6 rioters who stormed the Capitol were prosecuted. The other, impacting how we regulate just about everything in this country, from healthcare to the environment to the ability to make sure the water your kids drink is clean to the seatbelts in your car. We'll talk about all of it and more when Deadline White House continues after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
If you have Graves' disease, your eye symptoms could mean something more. That gritty feeling can't be brushed away. Even a little blurry vision can distort things, and something serious may be behind those itchy eyes. Up to 50% of people with Graves could develop a different condition called thyroid eye disease, which should be treated by a different doctor. See an expert. Find a TED eye specialist at isitted.com.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/hire and get started today.
Hi, I'm Gina. I was really upset at the way I had let myself go. My cravings were out of control. I had to do something. We all know it's important to take care of our health, but it seems the trend is looking for a quick fix. And as a nurse, it's really important to me what I put in my body. The main difference with Golo is the way I felt. I wasn't jittery. My cravings went away. I felt satisfied and healthy and had tons of energy. Give Golo a shot. You won't be sorry.
I brought in Ensure Max Protein with 30 grams of protein. Those who tried me felt more energy in just 2 weeks. Here, I'll take that.
Ensure Max Protein. 30 grams protein, 1 gram sugar, 25 vitamins and minerals, and a new fiber blend with a prebiotic.
Your loved ones are getting older, and they need your support. Care.com is here to help. It's an easy way to find background-checked senior caregivers in your area and some peace of mind. See why millions of families have trusted Care. Go to Care.com now.
Our daughter just bought her first house.
All by herself.
So we went to go see it.
She knew exactly how she wanted everything.
But then he pointed out the gutters.
You think you've raised them right, and then...
She didn't know. You have to call Leaf Filter.
Leaf Filter's patented filter technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good.
Parenthood is such a wild ride.
It's a lot easier with Leaf Filter.
Join millions of satisfied homeowners. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
At Care.com, it's easy to get a break, even if you're not on summer vacation. Join millions of families who've trusted us and find caregivers in your area for kids, seniors, pets, and homes. Go to Care.com now to find the care you need this summer.
Everybody needs a little magic. Everybody knows
Chewy, a Citi client, uses Citi's financial expertise to help drive its growth and keep its supply chain moving, so more pet parents can get everything they need right when they need it, keeping more pets and families happy. For the love of moving our clients forward, for the love of progress.
It's Monday night.
It's Monday, everyone.
Happy to have you here on this Monday night.
Do you think Trump's conviction is going to be an issue that's going to influence people who may be undecided?
I wondered what effect the sort of constant threat of violence has had on you.
How would you describe this? Double what?
Double frustrated.
Double frustrated. How about you?
Double cringe.
Double cringe.
The feeling I had inside was, Trump, hell no. He lied through the whole thing. And Biden, it's like, oh no, he is really in a bad shape. And can he even run in the rest of the election or take the White House again?
I came to try to watch two relatively sane people talk about what they're going to do for the country. And we got two second graders having a slugfest on the playground.
Undecided voters there in Arizona talking to our colleague, NBC's Scotty Schwartz, after last night's debate. We're back with Michael, the Rev, Cornell, and Sarah. Rev, the floor is yours. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that clearly it was not a good performance by President Biden. But at the same time, I think it was revealing of who Donald Trump was. Donald Trump was unrepentant in terms of what he had done to women's rights. He literally started talking about states' rights. In the black community, when you start talking about states' rights, we're talking about going back to Jim Crow, which one of his surrogates is saying was the strongest period in our lives. And when you looked at lie after lie that was told by Donald Trump, I think that a lot of undecided people and a lot of people that were leaning his way said this is too much. Yes, Joe Biden had a bad start. He picked up steam later. It wasn't his best night. But are we really going to forget? Here's a man who was vice president when Barack Obama and he inherited the economy that had gone through a real tough period with George Bush. Now he had to come behind COVID and what was mishandled by Trump and bring us through another bad economy. He's the only person I know that went through two economic crisis revivals and did it. And we're going to worry about he had a bad night. It is not about Joe Biden's night. It's about our future. When you have a man standing there saying that I'm committed to stacking the Supreme Court to limit freedoms, I'm committed to states' rights, I'm committed to making NATO have to have a stick up, and you have someone on the other side that has fought on all those issues, the question is what we're going to do, not whether Joe Biden is going to do. Lastly, one of the guys I know that's Republican called me and said, your guy did terrible last night. I said, but I thought y'all said he was on drugs. I thought he was going to be on ups. I thought What happened to all of the scenarios y'all ran down? You run down to the black community that Donald Trump's mugshot turns us on like all of us are criminal and thieves, and that we identify with him because the system oppresses us. He's being prosecuted by blacks. The DA in Manhattan and Georgia are black. What system? So all of this, I think, is revealing to him. I think the key word that I heard today, you played in just a little while ago, Nicolle, when Joe Biden stands up and say you fall down, you get back up, he's speaking to every disinherited America that understands that and identifies. And the only thing he needs to do now is get back up, and he will use this as a launch from having fell down in front of the country last night. Don't forget, Donald Trump's got to be in court September 11th to be sentenced. His parole officer has to approve of his traveling around the country. All Joe Biden has to do is keep getting up.
So, Sarah Longwell, I think that what everyone is saying is really sort of forward focused, which it sounds like from your group and from Gotti's group and from some of the things I've seen, voters don't sort of look back in any context, right? What's done is done. They look forward. If you're looking forward from the Biden campaign's perspective, what is the next best move they could make?
Well, look, I mean, I think they have to have an honest conversation about how well Joe Biden can prosecute this case against Trump. I don't agree with everything that everybody has said on this panel. I think last night was damaging. And I think that there has to be some real introspection about that. I think we can all sit here and talk about how big of a liability Trump is. And obviously, I believe that. Nobody wants to beat Donald Trump more than I do. But to do that, you have to be able to prosecute a case against Donald Trump. And there are a million things, a million liabilities. Nicolle, you can rattle them off one after the other, things that Donald Trump has done that make him absolutely morally, ethically, temperamentally unfit to be the president of the United States. Somebody's got to be able to prosecute that case against him. And if it's not Joe Biden, that has to be a conversation. If it is Joe Biden, then everybody's got to figure out how to go on offense, including Joe Biden, right? Offense all day long, because the fact is you're going to have to make this a referendum on Trump. That was always true. Last night was Joe Biden's biggest chance to make it a referendum on Trump, and it didn't happen. And so now we got to figure out, can he make it a referendum on Trump? Can he go on offense? Can every Democrat go on offense with him and make it about Trump? Because that is the only way you're going to win over the American people on this, is to make it so that the biggest coalition in America is an anti-Trump coalition. And you got to hold that coalition together. That job got harder last night, and we should not lie to ourselves about that. And so if you're going to move forward, you better figure out how you're going to pull that anti-Trump coalition back together. And that's going to take Joe Biden getting back up and doing a much, much better job going forward every single day than what we saw last night, because it confirmed a lot of people's worst fears last night.
You know, Cornell, what that looks like is a campaign that I hope Joe Biden is comfortable waging, but it is an exceedingly negative campaign, nothing fabricated, no truth stretched, but the real brutal facts about Donald Trump. He's a man who today boasts about stealing state secrets and has no remorse about endangering the lives of American and international allies, intelligence agencies. He's a man who boasts about inciting a deadly insurrection that threatened the life of his own vice president. He's a man who today thinks that if you're famous, you can grab women between the legs because, quote, that's what famous people have done for 1 million years. He is an unrepentant liar, an unrepentant, unpatriotic danger to the country. And I guess my question for you is what is the answer to Sarah's question? Can he prosecute that case?
No, I think Sarah, as always, makes a really fine point, and I think it's completely fair. So as a campaign hack, how do you solve this problem? And let's level set for a moment. And if Joe Biden were here sitting right beside me now, I don't think he would disagree that terribly with this statement I'm about to say. Joe Biden, when he was 40, wasn't necessarily what we thought of as a great campaigner, right? He's never historically been a great campaigner, and he's not going to turn into Bill Clinton or Barack Obama overnight, right? So, but Sarah's right. You do have to prosecute the case. But I think we're in an age right now where we are less reliant on one person prosecuting a case than a chorus prosecuting a case, right? The biggest voice in politics right now, I think, there's a downside to that, actually. But the biggest voice in politics right now is social media, right? And so I don't think it's necessarily just the president and vice president, but it's the surrogates, but it's also influencers. It's also, to that point again, Democrats around the country leaning in, right, and helping prosecute that case. Joe Biden cannot prosecute this. It's such a big case. Joe Biden can't prosecute this case by himself, even if he did have the skills of Barack Obama.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I want to do more on this idea of social media and influencers, because I feel like some of what keeps cable news sort of in its own bubble, a bubble of our own making, is a lack of humility about the limits of our reach. And I think that David Plouffe was talking about this. You're talking about this. I think and I'm sure, Sarah, you see this. A lot of people that are going to make the final decision are people that'll never see any of these segments, sadly, because you're all so brilliant. But I'd love to push through on that. So put yourselves all on notice. We'll try to have that conversation on Monday. Cornell, for your candor and your earnestness and your honesty with us and with me, thank you so much. Sarah Longwell, same compliment to you. Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your voters with us. We are so appreciative of both of you. Michael Steele and the Rev stick around. We will be joined by Congressman Eric Swalwell on the way forward in this campaign. A quick break. We'll be right back.
Smile. You found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once-daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
The cockroach. Resilient creatures. True miracles of evolution. Where there is one, others aren't far behind. Always scavenging for food, the cockroach will...
Well, that's horrifying.
Near its favorite...
Ortho Home Defense Max Indoor Insect Barrier. One application kills and prevents bugs for 365 days.
Not in my house, you don't.
Nature's wild. Your home doesn't have to be.
At Omaha Steaks, we do burgers differently. We take a premium aged steak like this and turn it into a pure ground burger like this. So this is actually a ribeye. This is a New York strip, top sirloin, beef brisket, and this is a filet mignon. For a limited time, our Burger Perfection flight comes with 20 big, juicy burgers, all for just $79.99. Get it today at omahasteaks.com/TV. This is Burger Perfection, guaranteed.
We planned well for retirement, but I wish we had more cash.
You think those two have any idea?
That they can sell their life insurance policy for cash, so they're basically sitting on a gold mine? I don't think they have a clue.
That's crazy.
Well, not everyone knows Coventry has helped thousands of people sell their policies for cash, even term policies.
I can't believe they're just sitting up there.
Sitting on all this cash.
If you own a life insurance policy of $100,000 or more, you can sell all or part of it to Coventry, even a term policy, for cash or a combination of cash and coverage with no future premiums.
Someone needs to tell them that they're sitting on a gold mine and you have no idea. Hey, guys! You're sitting on a gold mine! Come on,
Do you hear that?
I don't hear anything anymore.
Find out if you're sitting on a gold mine. Call Coventry Direct today at 800-459-2600 or visit coventrydirect.com.
Well, changing question. Are you keeping as much of your investment gains as possible? High taxes can erode returns quickly, so you need a tax-optimized portfolio. At Creative Planning, our money managers and specialists work together to make sure your portfolio and wealth are managed in a tax-efficient manner. It's what you keep that really matters. Why not give your wealth a second look? Book your free meeting today at creativeplanning.com. Creative Planning, a richer way to wealth.
We should stay the course. I should say that we should focus on the Biden record. We should focus on substance. We have a workhorse on behalf of the American people. We got a show horse that's trying to get him out of office, and we don't have to question that.
A very big supporter of President Biden. He's been a great president and done great things for our country.
We've got to go in and got to keep our heads high. And as I say, we've got to have the back of this president. You don't turn your back because of one performance. What kind of party does that?
There's a handful of Democratic leaders in that party answering one of the most asked questions in the last 12 to 20 hours. Should President Biden step aside after last night's debate performance and let somebody else face off against Donald Trump, given the lack of any debate or dispute about the threat the ex-president poses to our country and our democracy? Joining that conversation, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, Michael Steele and the Rev Al Sharpton are still here. Congressman, today's about turning the floor over to people who know a lot more than I do. Your thoughts?
Well, Nicole, I'm not worried about something that happened for 90 minutes last night. I'm worried for my kids' sake and all kids in America about the next 4 years. But it's simple to me to explain what happened with Joe Biden. You saw a good man who wasn't at his best. And in Donald Trump, you saw a bad man who, like always, is just the worst. And now we have to animate and tell the story about who Joe Biden is and what he's done. He's a jobs president. No one made the unemployment line longer than Donald Trump. And this is Joe Jobs, Joey Jobs, Joe freaking Jobs. The guy created 16 million jobs in America, and he wants to finish the job with 4 more years to grow that economy. And that's what we should be telling Americans right now. And that's what the president, frankly, needs to get out there and tell the Americans right now. Joe Jobs. That's what Joe Biden means to me, and that's what he means to most Americans.
And what do you do about the structural... For some reason, our politics and this debate last night wasn't structured in a way that caught any of Trump's lies. Daniel Dale there fact-checked it afterward in a really effective, powerful way to a sliver of the audience that watched the lies when they were told. We still have this problem of the lies getting the big amplification and the truth, if it ever catches up, reaching far fewer people.
Well, it's my job to call out the lies, and frankly, it's President Biden's job. He should every single time look at Donald Trump and say, "You're a liar. Why can't you tell the truth?" He should say that every single time before he says anything else, because Donald Trump's a liar. And frankly, I'm embarrassed that Joe Biden had to stand on that stage with a convicted felon. It's embarrassing for the President of the United States to have to stand next to a convicted felon, someone who was judged to have sexually assaulted another woman, someone who owes hundreds of millions of dollars for his fraud. Joe Biden shouldn't have to stand next to that person, but he should call him a liar every single day. But what can I do and what can your viewers do? Well, if you're worried about what's going to happen at the White House, think about what can be the insurance policy against that. We have to have the House. The House of Representatives, with Speaker Jeffries leading a majority, can be a torch, a flame for Joe Biden as president, or it can be a firewall against the worst instincts of Donald Trump. So that's what I'm going to really focus on, is what we can do to make sure that we have the House. In 2016, when Hillary Clinton lost, we picked up 6 seats in the House as Democrats. That's actually all it would take to be in the majority. So, Nicole, we have to have the House.
Leader Jeffries expressed some concern about the president's performance last night, said he was waiting to see how he performed today. Have you seen him since Joe Biden's North Carolina speech? Is he on the Biden train?
No, I've not seen Speaker Jeffries, but I know that he has already, functionally been the Speaker of the House, delivering, in the House of Representatives, the majority of the votes on everything that matters to most Americans, keeping government open, funding Ukraine, paying our bills. And as the formal speaker, as I said, he can be the flame for the policies that will finish the job for Joe Biden, or we can be the firewall against Donald Trump. And that's what I'm focused on right now. So as Democrats, we can be at our worst when we're bedwetting and soaking all the way through the mattress, but we can be at our best when we're boosting the leaders in our country who can, bring the change. And again, Joe Jobs, that's who Joe Biden is, and that story needs to start being told immediately.
Just real quick, why do you think Joe Biden didn't tell that story last night?
Well, look, he hasn't debated in 4 years. I think it needs to be much simpler. The message has to be simpler. We don't need numbers. We don't need homework. This isn't a Harvard Law School moot court competition. This is a gut check for every American. And Joe Biden can win the gut check because if you wanted a job when you were in the unemployment line, under Joe Biden, chances are you got a job, and not only that, you got a job that paid more. And that is how we need to simplify it for every American when he goes up against Donald Trump again and when he's on the trail across the country for the next 4 months.
Congressman Eric Swalwell, as promised, we turned over the floor to you. You had some great advice for Democrats on this day where I know there is still some pockets of anxiety. Thank you for spending time with us and addressing it head on.
Thanks, Nicole.
We'll have much more with Michael Steele and the Rev after a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Saturday, September 7th, it's MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, our premier live audience event with your favorite MSNBC hosts. Visit msnbc.com/democracy2024 to buy your tickets.
Numbers. They never lie. They tell it like it is. They don't lean politically to the left or to the right. In the end, numbers tell stories that words alone can't. And when you look at the world through numbers, somehow it all adds up.
Introducing Ned's Plaque Psoriasis.
Ned, who are you wearing?
He thinks his flaky red patches are all people see.
Otezla is the #1 prescribed pill to treat plaque psoriasis.
Ned?
Otezla can help you get clearer skin and reduce itching and flaking, with no routine blood tests required. Doctors have been prescribing Otezla for over a decade. Otezla is also approved to treat psoriatic arthritis. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Serious allergic reactions can happen. Otezla may cause severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting. Some people taking Otezla had depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss. Upper respiratory tract infection and headache may occur.
With clear skin, movie night is a groovy night. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla.
Hey, with Priceline VIP Family, you can unlock deals 5 times faster. You don't even have to be an actual family.
Oh, I'd be the dad.
I'm the dad. Hey, physically, it's clear that I'm the dad.
Okay, so which dad is paying?
You're the dad.
Go to your happy price, Priceline. Compared with other chews, one Vervecto chew protects from fleas and ticks for 12 weeks, nearly 3 times longer.
Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurological disorders. Protection that lasts longer? Bravo, Brevecto. Bravo.
Harlem has everything, but I couldn't find Pilates anywhere. So I started my own studio. And with the right help, I can make this place I love even better.
Earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials with the Chase Inc. Business Cash Card from Chase for Business.
Slowing my cancer from growing and living longer are 2 things I want from my metastatic breast cancer treatment.
And with Kisqali, I can have both.
Kisqali is a pill that, when taken with an aromatase inhibitor, helps delay cancer from growing and has been proven to help people live significantly longer across 3 separate clinical trials.
So I have the confidence to live my life.
Kisqali can cause lung problems or an abnormal heartbeat, which can lead to death. It can cause serious skin reactions, liver problems, and low white blood cell counts that may result in severe infections. Avoid grapefruit during treatment. Tell your doctor right away if you have new or worsening symptoms, including breathing problems, cough, chest pain, a change in your heartbeat, dizziness, yellowing of the skin or eyes, dark urine, tiredness, loss of appetite, abdomen pain, bleeding, bruising, fever, chills, or other symptoms of an infection, a severe or worsening rash, or plan to become pregnant or breastfeeding. Long live life, and long live you. Ask your doctor about Kisqali today.
Hi, I'm Janice, and I lost 172 pounds on Golo. A friend told me that I was the only one holding me back from being as beautiful on the outside as I am the inside. Once I saw Golo was working, I felt this rush. Golo really works.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
We're back with Michael Steele and the Reverend Al Sharpton. I mean, Rev, that should be cut into an ad, and it should be the most money they've spent on TV so far. That should be running on broadcast, cable, digital in every swing state by the time we all wake up tomorrow morning. I mean, that's a person who could win. And I think a lot of Democrats, to Cornell's point, ran away from the president after coming to the conclusion that the person they saw last night wasn't.
I think that ad should be on now, less known in the morning. Yes. And I think it speaks for so many people, because then you start saying, yeah, I've been knocked down. That is Joe Biden's story. What I said, I got calls all night, and I'm sure I will get calls. This is not going anywhere for a long time. But I kept saying to them, I said, do you have a short memory? Just a few years ago, to be exact, 3.5 years ago, I happened to be in Charleston, South Carolina, the morning after the Democratic debate, having a minister's breakfast for National Action Network, and all of the candidates came. Joe Biden had entered the race. He was embarrassed in New Hampshire and Iowa. Jim Clyburn and him hooked up, and he took off. This man has been humiliated, been down before. If there's anybody that knows how to get up in politics, it's Joe Biden. And he's taken some lickings before, but he keeps ticking. And that's what I think he can sell. Because what I say to all these people talking about a brokered convention or should he step out, I said, one, that's up to him. But second, who steps in that you can tell me can beat Donald Trump? The only one I know that's ever beat him is Joe Biden. And you had counted him out all the way to the South Carolina primary.
You know, Michael Steele, we as a media have spent almost a grotesque amount of time trying to understand the bond between Trump and his base. And a very, compared to that, very small amount of time trying to understand Joe Biden's tie to his. And I think what the Rev is getting at, and something that's always been missed by sort of elite media, is that people see themselves in Joe Biden's resilience. They see themselves in his having to overcome a stutter. They see themselves in the agony of losing a child and a wife and a daughter. They see themselves in parenting someone who struggles with the disease of addiction. Now, I don't think anyone can see themselves in him having to watch his own government prosecute his own son and then saying that he loves this country so much and the rule of law that he won't pardon him. That's almost next level. But there is something that we miss about the voters and the Biden base's ties to Biden that I think really is underscored by that clip from today's speech.
There's a lot. There's a lot in what you just said, Nicolle. And the narratives to me, as they've come about in this campaign, at once are very frustrating, how they're covered by the media overall. Donald Trump has been given a license by the media that I think has contributed mightily to a lot of this. The format, I liked that debate last night, and I know that there are a lot of technical issues that people can say about not having the moderators push back and all of that. But the one thing I will say about it is that it did level up and expose everything. We now know, we've level set this race. We now know what it looks like. We now know who these people are. We see the flaws of an elderly president who, as he admitted in that North Carolina speech, has trouble walking. And yeah, the words don't come out as cleanly and smoothly as some would like. But what you also saw was on the other side of him, a rabid, ravenous, egomaniacal individual who made everything about him, who even in the face of his own 34 convictions said, oh, yeah, well, the president's son is convicted. He's convicted at a higher level. What, at a higher level than you as president, as a former president with 34 convictions? So it was clarifying on so many levels last night. But here's the rub for me. Today, the media is doing another horse race. Who's going to replace Joe Biden? Who's favorable? Who's not favorable? could you stop the BS, please? Because that race isn't happening. Tell us the story of the race that is happening. And that's the important part of this that I think gets missed often.
Let's listen to Joe Biden. He's right now at an event in New York City.
Who for generations have been at the forefront of helping realize the promise of America for all Americans. Look, in 2016, President Obama, I was his vice president at the time, designated Christopher Park as a national monument. Today, I'm proud to unveil a new visitor center for Stonewall National Monument, the first ever LGBTQ plus visitor center in the national parks in America. And it matters. It matters. We remain in a battle for the soul of America. I know I've said that for a while now. People looked at me when I first said it like I was kidding. I'm not. We're in the battle for the soul of America. But I look around at the pride, hope, and light that all of you bring. And I know it was a battle we're going to win and continue to make progress. LGBTQ plus people are some of the most inspiring people I know. And of course, the courage. You know, I talk to a lot of younger LGBTQ people in their teens and 20s. And I remind them, for a lot of people who started this operation, you took your life in your own hands. Not figuratively, literally. You took your jobs in your own hands. You were put up in a position where you were so much to lose, and you still did it. You still did it. I remember my dad was dropping me off to get a license to be a lifeguard in Wilmington, Delaware, at the swimming pools. And I got out of the car in Rodney Square, they call it. And that's where the DuPont building is and the Hercules Corporation, all in that one quarter. And two well-dressed men were kissing each other. I hadn't seen that before. I looked at my dad. I was 16 years old. Looked at my dad, and he said, "It's simple, Joey. They love each other. It's simple."
You were diagnosed with thyroid eye disease a long time ago. And year after year, you weathered the storm and just lived with the damage that was left behind. But even after all this time, your thyroid eye disease could still change. Restoration is still possible. Learn how you could give your eyes a fresh start at TEDhelp.com.
I'm Trevor, and I lost 132 pounds on Golo. At 26 years old, my doctor wanted to put me on medications, and I wasn't having that. I tried other diets, and they just didn't work, didn't last. Release worked fast. After a week, I had more energy, mental clarity, and my cravings were gone. I've lost 132 pounds, and I will never, ever gain that weight back, thanks to Golo.
You might be used to living with your albuterol asthma rescue inhaler, but it's a bit of a dinosaur because it only treats your symptoms, not inflammation. Treating both symptoms and inflammation with rescue is supported by asthma experts. Finally, there's a modern way to treat symptoms and asthma attacks. Air Supra is the first ever dual-action rescue inhaler that treats your asthma symptoms and helps prevent attacks. Air Supra is the only rescue FDA approved to do both. Air Supra is an as-needed rescue inhaler and should not be used as a maintenance treatment for asthma. Get medical help right away if your breathing does not improve, continues to worsen, or for serious allergic reactions. Using Air Supra more than prescribed could be life-threatening. Serious side effects include heart problems, increased risk of thrush, or infections. Welcome to the modern age of dual-action asthma rescue. Ask your doctor if Air Supra is right for you.
It's a lot to be a caregiver and a daughter because you kind of have to take a step back. Getting some help would be a great relief.
From companions to helpers to caregivers, find all the senior care you need at care.com.
These politicians can never agree.
Emma, we don't always agree. Like, you're into politics. It stresses me out.
You sleep hot, I sleep cool.
You like sleeping in luxury. I like spending less.
I guess that's why we agreed on this Satva mattress.
Maybe America needs a Satva.
At least we'd be comfortable disagreeing. Satva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
At care.com, you can quickly find local, background-checked sitters, read reviews, see their experience, and get your questions answered.
Hi, this is Jess, our new sitter.
Find a sitter today, care.com.
I hear from a lot of people that they're a little tired of these choices and a little tired of politics, and that's fine. But elections ultimately aren't about whether there's something new or entertaining happening. They're about deciding your future. We do live in a country still where you can be a part of that decision.
Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat for everything America stands for. Look, he doesn't understand what I think all of you do. America is the finest and most unique nation in the world.
Hi again, everyone. It's now 5 o'clock in the East. Still feeling the aftershocks of last night's debate. The country now refocusing its attention on the hugely consequential choice before it in November. No matter what anyone thinks of last night's debate, if they happen to watch it or either the candidates, what is unchanged at this hour is that November's election is a fundamental, unprecedented choice between drastically different ideologies and visions for the future of this country, whether it remains a democracy. A choice between just that, democracy versus a slide toward autocracy. Voters cannot forget how the Republican presumptive nominee incited a deadly insurrection, how he cozies up to and flatters autocrats while pushing forward an agenda that replicates theirs, and who has no respect for the rule of law in America. Underscoring the stakes of the election in November even further, newly released decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court earlier today. The conservative supermajority, which includes 3 of the justices handpicked by Donald Trump himself, overturned a 40-year-old precedent, taking aim at the power of federal agencies to function. The Chevron ruling, as the SCOTUS blog puts it, quote, cuts back sharply on the power of federal agencies to interpret the laws they administer, and ruled that courts should rely on their own interpretation of ambiguous laws. The decision will likely have far-reaching effects across the country, from environmental regulation to health care costs. Today also saw the court rule in favor of the January 6 insurrectionist who challenged his obstruction of official proceeding charge. That ruling, which we will dive into a little deeper in a minute, could have an impact on hundreds of other January 6 prosecutions as well. And there's still more to come from this highest court in the land. The Supreme Court has indicated that on Monday, that'll be their final day, and on Monday we will find out just how extreme this court really is when it